Welcome to Hard Money 209, the draw process. The draw process is the process where the lender is releasing funds for work that had been completed on the property that you're buying and are currently rehabbing. When the rehab work begins, typically a contractor is going to require some amount of money up front to get started with the project. This will happen after funding occurs. So after you've closed the property and the property has funded, you've gotten authorization and verification from your lender. The borrower pays the contractor if they do require money up front. Now, don't get overextended here. It's recommended not to pay out more than $5,000 at a time. Some of the contractors require 25% to 50% up front. If you're working on a large rehab project, say even $25,000, half of that, $12,500, is too much in my opinion to be released to a contractor when the majority of the work up front is highly labor intensive. So work with your contractor on that if you're using a GC, and if you're subbing everything else out yourself, then you have less to worry about. It's key to note that there are two relationships. There's a relationship between the lender and the borrower. This is the legal relationship where the lender is going to release funds to the borrower, to you, the borrower, directly, not to the contractor. So the responsibility for you receiving money for work completed is between you and the lender. Next is the relationship between the borrower and the contractor. Now, just because the contractor requires money to get started, or they say they need money at certain checkpoints, does not mean the lender is on that same wavelength with them. There's one relationship with them, and there's one relationship with the lender. Now, when the contractor keeps asking for money as the property is progressing through rehab, you want to try to make sure that you can account for those draw requests. And if you have the financial ability to be able to float multiple draws from your contractor, again, different than the draws from the lender, if you can float some of that the rehab, then you can get less draws from your lender and incur less costs associated with that. When you are ready to be reimbursed for completed work, you're going to send a draw request form to your lender. Typically, you can do that through email or electronically on the lender's website directly, and worst case, you can even do it in person or do something on hard paper. Once you submit that form to the lender, they are going to receive it and order the inspection. The inspector is going to go out to the property, so make sure they have adequate access, a lockbox code, contact, something like that, and make sure the work is actually done before the lender sends the inspector out. A way to do this is to have your contractor send you pictures if you're not on site on a regular basis and you're requesting for flooring and paint. Make sure the contractor can send you pictures of all the rooms being painted before the inspector goes out there. You're charged a fee, and they go out just to find out that they painted one room that they sent you a picture of instead of the other 7. The inspection report is then sent to the lender, and the lender starts to review it. A couple key things to note in this process. The release of funds is based on work that is completed. A lender will not release funds for work that is not completed. So if you are requesting for a roof and the roof has not been put on yet, they're not going to release money for that item. Also, lenders typically do not release money for materials only. So if you've ordered the kitchen cabinets but they have not been delivered yet, typically a hard money lender is not going to release money for those cabinets because it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be installed in the property. Once those cabinets had been, in this example, once those cabinets had been installed in the property, then the inspector can verify that those are in and you'll receive funds for those. This process typically takes 2 to 3 business days from when you request it to the funds hitting your account, but it is very important to understand your lender's draw process up front. Some lenders can limit your fees. Some lenders have limits on the amount of draws that you can do or the days that you can do them. And you also need to understand the fees associated with the draw request. Are you paying the inspector directly? Are you making monthly payments on those as fees, or are they taken out of your repair escrow account? Also, scheduling. Like I said, sometimes lenders will only allow inspections on certain days. Make sure you understand that up front so you don't delay the rehab more than necessary. And this process will continue until the rehab is 100% done. The last draw, is usually released when the property is in fact 100% done. So not 90%, 95%. I've still got to put on countertops, do the backsplash, install the toilets. Give me all my money so I can do that. No, the lender's going to pay 100% out when the rehab is 100% complete. Now I want to go over the 5 most common mistakes investors make during the rehab process as it relates to the lender's draw process. Number 1, giving the contractor too much money up front. Releasing money for work that has not yet been performed is not wise, and the contractor has less incentive to actually do the work if you've given them a big chunk up front. A lot of that comes down to reputation in the marketplace, but if you're using individual guys that you don't know a lot about, you want to control this process a lot more than you would in other circumstances. The majority of the work up front is very labor intensive, so unless you're doing roof, foundation, and major items all at the same time in the beginning, you're not going to have a lot of costs going out. Again, demo, dumpster, cleaning debris, all that kind of stuff, permitting. It's not a lot of money, so it's not a lot of money, so I wouldn't recommend paying out too big of a chunk up front. My recommendation is to pay no more than $5,000 out at a time if it doesn't affect the timeliness of getting the rehab complete, and if you're working with someone that you don't feel as comfortable with that amount of money. Bigger GCs that are used to handling this, investor volume, I would be less concerned about. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable doing more than $5,000 at a time. We personally don't front any money. That's our investment strategy, but you've got to do what's best for you in your situation. And the most important thing is you don't want to get behind, you don't want to lose money, but you also want to balance the speed of the rehab getting done on time. Also, I'd hold $5,000 at the end. That'd be the very end of the project after you've done the punch list, because you want to give them incentive to come back and finish the project. If you're holding a few $100s or $1,000 and there's a very big punch list, they don't have a lot of incentive to actually come back and do the work other than reputation in the marketplace. Number 2, accepting poor quality workmanship. If you don't have the time to be on site often, as a lot of people that are buying rentals frequently don't have the amount of time, so they rely on the contractor to do a lot of the work and they take the contractor's word for it. Don't take the contractor's word for it. Verify with your own eyes. Understand that the rehab is probably going to go a little bit over budget and it's not going to be done on time. There's a lot of scheduling things and weather that can come into play with that. Just have those expectations up front so you don't get frustrated through the process. It is important to not sacrifice quality for speed or cost. What I mean by that is if you get to choose 3, speed, quality, and cost, do not sacrifice on quality. If you do the projects right, rehab them properly, they will sell faster and rent quicker. You'll have a better asset. You'll be happier overall with the end result. Remember, the cheapest is not always the least expensive. Number 3, requesting funds for work not yet performed. Have your contractor send you pictures before you schedule the inspection. You want to make sure that the work that you think is being done is actually being done if you don't have the time to be able to be on site that often. Double check the inspection items that you're requesting prior to the inspector going out there. If there are delays and you need to buy a few days worth of time and you've completed a bunch of other items on the rehab bid, then make sure you include that in a revised draw request so you can get money for those items as well. And again, do not take your contractor's word for it. Trust what they say, but verify. Number 4, requesting funds for items that do not match the original rehab estimate. Lenders cannot release money for items that you go over budget on. If you open doors, or If you open walls and find out that there's termites or things that you didn't see during the original walking of the property and putting your scopes together, if it's not accounted for in a rehab bid by typically through an overage or a reserve account, then lenders can't release money on that. If you need to replace the roof but you missed it on the original inspection, then it's not something that was budgeted for. It's not something the lender can release funds for. And also, items that are not requested for oftentimes are not released. So if you have completed the baseboards or done things that you may have not put on the draw request form, the inspector is not necessarily going to look for them, and you may risk not getting funds for items that have been completed if you did not request them to be inspected and funds to be released on them. Number 5, not requesting any draws until the rehab is 100% complete. Now, you may think you're saving time. Now, you may think you're saving money by not having inspection fees and not being charged interest on the funds as they're released out of escrow, but you want to also balance the cost with a job getting done right. If you're new and you're not an experienced investor, rely on your lender's opinion of the quality of workmanship and the items that are getting done in your rehab. If you have a lot of experience, you can probably play this a little bit more aggressive and float more to have a little bit more cost savings. But if you're a new investor, it is my recommendation to leverage your lender's experience. They've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of draw report or inspection reports. They've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of inspection reports, and they can help you correct issues if they are issues before it's too late. So if a wrong texture is applied or a wrong color is painted and you don't know about it until, so say a wrong texture is applied and you don't know about it until after they paint, you're going to have an issue going back and reapplying texture and then painting again. Try to catch issues like that as they occur and deal with them instead of finding out after the fact when it's too late. At the end of the day, we are here as a lender to help you succeed. So leverage our experience in helping you walk away with a solid asset. Remember, we have our money invested in the deal with you, so think of it as a second set of eyes on your transaction. That concludes Hard Money 209, the draw process. If you have any questions, go ahead and check out our FAQ on our website, sflending.com. Thanks.